It was hard enough to get you to click on this video, so I am not about to waste your time with a list of 10 movies that are just weird for the sake of weird, and I'm certainly not going to waste your time with stuff you've already seen 100 times. No, these are 10 movies that will genuinely dismantle you. Movies that feel like one thing in the first 20 minutes and become something else entirely by the time they're done with you. Some of them are slow burns, some of them hit like a freight train with no warning. All of them are gonna stay in your head long after you're done watching. I'll be ruthlessly avoiding spoilers throughout this video, but stream availability for every single movie on this list is pinned in the first comment below, so go check it out. Let's get into it. Now, I know these movie lists can sometimes feel interchangeable, same titles, same takes, so I'm starting with something that most people have genuinely never encountered, and it earns its spot because it does something really specific and really strange. This movie presents itself as a noir. You've got a guy just out of prison, a sad cafe, a young couple stumbling into crime, neon signs dripping in the rain, all the ingredients. But then you start noticing things. The characters are dressed like it's 1945. They talk like it's 1945. Except the movie is clearly not set in 1945 and nobody acknowledges this, ever. There are strange patrols pulling up on the streets. Korean gets spoken alongside English for no explained reason. Alan Rudolph, who directed this, gets compared to Fellini and Edward Hopper, which sounds pretentious until you watch it and go, oh yeah, actually that's exactly right. It's stylized in a way that feels like a memory of a film rather than a film itself. It's melancholy and strange and oddly funny, and it absolutely earns the confusion it creates. If you like cinema that operates on its own internal logic and asks you to just trust it, this is a deeply underrated one. And the cast alone, Chris Christopherson, Keith Carradine, Genevieve Bujold, is worth the price of admission. This is Trouble in Mind. My number 9 pick is one I think about a lot, and I think about it specifically because of what it does with time, or more accurately, what it refuses to do with time. It's set in modern-day Paris, contemporary, present tense, except there's a violent occupation happening, the kind with checkpoints, travel papers, people desperately trying to flee. And the film never names the threat, never grounds it historically. And that ambiguity turns out to be the whole point, because suddenly, this is a story that isn't about then, it's about now, it's about every now. Our protagonist ends up sort of inheriting a dead man's identity, his papers, his name, his whole life. And then he meets a woman, and the story becomes about that tension between survival and love, and whether you can even tell the difference between the two when everything is falling apart around you. Christian Petzold directed this. He also made Phoenix, which I've talked about on this channel before. He has this extraordinary ability to take completely restrained, quiet filmmaking and make it feel like a punch. Nobody raises their voice, nothing is overplayed, and yet I was gripped all the way through. It's inspired by Casablanca, by Kafka, by a World War II novel, and somehow ends up feeling like one of the most urgent films of the last decade. Franz Rogowski in the lead is just quietly incredible. This is Transit. Okay, one room, one man, one phone. That is the entire movie, and I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now, it is one of the most tense, most propulsive, most genuinely gripping 85 minutes I've spent watching a film in years, and I say that as someone who has seen a lot of films. Our guy is a cop assigned to an emergency dispatch call center. He's already dealing with something personal, something that's clearly been eating at him. And then a call comes in, a woman, distressed, clearly in danger, and he becomes completely consumed by it. What happens from there, I genuinely do not want to tell you. What I will say is this: the movie is about assumptions, about what happens when someone with authority and urgency decides they already know what's going on and acts on that certainty. And the film dismantles that impulse quietly and devastatingly in real time, without ever raising its voice, without ever leaving that room. The sound design in this movie deserves an award. You are building images entirely from what you hear, voices, ambient sound, what's not said, and the film knows exactly how to play that. Denmark submitted this for the Oscars. It won the Audience Award at Sundance, completely justified on both counts. If you've already seen the American remake with Jake Gyllenhaal, I'd still say go back and watch this original. It's a different experience and a sharper one. This is The Guilty. Fair warning, this one is going to get under your skin and it is going to stay there. The setup is deceptively simple. A young woman escapes from a cult, goes to stay with her sister, tries to be normal, And the film weaves between her present life and her time inside the cult in a way where the editing itself becomes disorienting. Deliberately so, because that's what trauma actually does to a person. It makes the past and present bleed into each other until you can't tell which is which, and that's the experience the film puts you in. Elizabeth Olsen, before Marvel, before all of it, delivers one of the best performances I've ever seen from any actor in any film in this decade or the last one. There's this quality she has throughout the entire film of being simultaneously childlike and shattered and quietly trying to hold herself together, and it never stops working for a single second. John Hawkes plays the cult leader, Patrick, and I want to be specific about what makes his performance so unsettling. He doesn't play him as a monster, he plays him as charming, as warm, as the kind of person who makes you understand without excusing how someone ends up under his influence. That is genuinely hard to do, and he does it perfectly. Sean Durkin wrote and directed this. It was his debut feature, remarkable debut feature. The film doesn't wrap anything up cleanly. It ends right where it ends, and you just sit with it. This is Martha Marcy May Marlene.
If you couldn't dance, what would you do? Suicide?
Right, so this one requires a small disclaimer. Gaspar Noé made this movie, and if that name means nothing to you, I'll explain shortly. If it does mean something to you, yeah, you already know. The setup. 1996 France. A group of elite dancers celebrating after a rehearsal. There is sangria. The sangria has been tampered with, and then the night begins. But before all that goes sideways, the opening dance sequence. I need to talk about it. It is one of the most electrically alive pieces of filmmaking I've seen in years. Voguing, contortion, crumping, styles I don't even have names for. These dancers are giving absolutely everything, and the camera is right in it with them. A single, continuous take, and you feel genuine, electric joy. And then Noé, who has zero chill and has never had zero chill and is very committed to having zero chill, uses all that joy as a runway for what comes next. Because what comes next is basically Lord of the Flies inside a discotheque. The lighting shifts to sickly green and hellish red. The camera starts drifting and swirling. The music thumps like a heartbeat that can't calm down, and people start turning on each other in ways that are primal and awful and completely riveting. Is it excessive? Yes. Is that the point? Also yes. If you've seen Irreversible or Enter the Void and survived, you know what you're getting into. If this is your first Noé, welcome. This is what he does. This is Climax. Real quick before we keep going, if this is the kind of recommendation energy you want in your feed, hit subscribe and drop a like on this video. I put out 2 of these every single week. Real reviews, real takes, no filler. Okay, back to the list. Now, all the way down at my number 5 pick, we've got a movie that I've probably recommended more than almost anything else on this channel, and it still feels criminally underseen. Tim Robbins plays a Vietnam veteran, doctorate degree, post office job, seemingly getting through it, and then things start happening. Wrong things. Small things at first, a near miss on the subway, a car that comes too close, and then it escalates into something that genuinely makes you question what's real, what's memory, and whether there's even a difference. Now, here's what separates Jacob's Ladder from other psychological horror films of its era. It's not trying to trick you in the fun, puzzle, movie way. It's trying to immerse you in a psychological state and keep you there. The goal is not a twist. The goal is a portrait of dissociation, of guilt, of a mind that can no longer locate itself in time, and it does that extraordinarily well. Tim Robbins is phenomenal. Elizabeth Pena is phenomenal, and the screenplay written by Bruce Joel Rubin went on to influence so many films that came after it. If you've ever watched something and thought, this feels like Jacob's Ladder, there's a reason for that. The film's central philosophical proposition, the thing it's actually about underneath all the horror imagery, is one of the most haunting ideas I've ever encountered in this genre. I'm not telling you what it is, but when it lands, you'll feel it everywhere. Fans of Angel Heart, this is a mandatory companion piece. Watch them back to back if you can. This is Jacob's Ladder.
So you live alone?
Yes,
Think I'm pretty?
I like a gorgeous.
My number 4 pick is a film that will not explain itself to you. Not once, not even a little. And I say that as a compliment of the highest order. Scarlett Johansson plays something. An alien, a concept, a mirror held up to how men look at women. All of the above simultaneously. She drives around Glasgow picking people up, and the film observes this with an almost clinical detachment that somehow becomes deeply, bone-deep unsettling. Jonathan Glazer directed this. He also made The Zone of Interest, which came out a couple years ago and is another film that will destroy you in a completely different way. The man understands dread on a molecular level. The opening sequence alone is one of the most hypnotic, abstract things I've seen in a film. It's just geometric shapes, just light forming in darkness, and I was completely riveted. That should tell you something about what this movie is doing and how it's doing it. Johansson's performance is genuinely one of the strangest and most effective things she's ever done on screen. Less dialogue, more presence, more instinct. And paradoxically, playing something inhuman makes her feel more physically real than almost anything else in her filmography. You notice her as a body in a way that the film then turns into its whole thesis. Stylistically, this one gets compared to Jodorowsky, to Nicholas Roeg, to experimental cinema. If you want a conventional narrative, this is not it. If you want an experience that lives in you after, absolutely it. This is Under the Skin. Now, my number 3 pick is a movie I've been building toward on this list, and I want to be upfront with you before we go in. If you approach Mulholland Drive looking for an explanation, something to solve, a code to crack, you will have a frustrating time. The movie is not a puzzle, it's a dream, and David Lynch means that structurally, not metaphorically. This is cinema that operates the way actual dreams operate, with internal logic that feels completely coherent while you're in it and dissolves the moment you try to articulate it. Individual scenes hit you with tremendous emotional force, and they don't connect logically, and that's exactly correct. Naomi Watts plays Betty, bright-eyed, hopeful, just arrived in Hollywood. Laura Elena Herring plays a woman with no memory of who she is. They find each other, and then the film goes everywhere. A director being pressured to cast a specific actress, a dwarf giving instructions via cell phone, a rotting corpse, an audition scene so good it made me forget I was watching a movie, a musical number that feels like it wandered in from a different decade. All of it coheres not logically but emotionally, the way a piece of music coheres without needing to be explained. Lynch was reportedly working with material from an unaired 1999 TV pilot and assembled it into this, which is either the most improbable or the most fitting origin story for a masterpiece I've ever heard. When this movie ends, you will sit there like you're trying to recount a strange dream. You will not quite have words. That is exactly correct. That is the whole point. This is Mulholland Drive. The title alone should be your first signal, but here's what I love about this movie. It takes that unsettling promise and runs so much further with it than you expect, and it does it in a direction you genuinely won't see coming. On the surface, a woman goes with her boyfriend Jake to meet his parents at a remote farmhouse during a snowstorm. That's the logline. That is not the movie. Charlie Kaufman wrote and directed this, which, if you know his other work, Eternal Sunshine, Synecdoche, New York, Adaptation, you already understand that you are not in for a conventional experience. What he does here is use a deceptively simple premise to dismantle identity, time, hope, and the stories we tell ourselves to survive. And he does it quietly, slowly, with almost unbearable precision. The protagonist's name changes throughout the film. Her job changes. Her memories change. She quotes poetry she shouldn't know.
Excuse me?
You don't have to go.
I don't have to go where?
Jessie Buckley plays her with absolute conviction through all of it, which is remarkable because that kind of instability is almost impossible to anchor as a performance. Jesse Plemons plays Jake, uncomfortable in a way that is deeply, specifically real. And Toni Collette and David Thewlis as the parents are doing something in this film that requires your full attention, something that rewards it. Kaufman shoots the car scenes from outside, blurred faces, wind dominating the sound, creating this watched, observed, slightly wrong feeling. The 4:3 aspect ratio traps you in the frame. All of it is intentional, and all of it is working. One of the best films of 2020, genuinely. This is I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Do you remember that pact we made?
Kinda.
We promised to never leave each other.
Never ever.
And here we are, my number one pick, the one I've been thinking about how to introduce since I started writing this video. I'm going to give you the premise, and I want you to really sit with it. You are Oscar, first person POV, his eyes, his blinks, his perspective, an American drug dealer in Tokyo. And then, very early in the film, you die. And then the movie continues for another 2.5 hours from the perspective of your soul floating above the city, watching, drifting, observing the aftermath. This is not a spoiler. This is the setup. He draws from the Tibetan Book of the Dead, from near-death experience accounts, from hallucinogenic states. The camera moves through walls, through memory, through time. The neon of Tokyo, this gorgeous, pulsing, slightly malevolent city, becomes a kind of purgatory. And the visual language of this film, the unprecedented cinematography, the first-person shooting, the psychedelic imagery, it is genuinely unlike anything that has come before or since. Is it one of the most technically audacious, visually unprecedented, emotionally singular pieces of filmmaking I have ever encountered? Without question. Some critics called it a masterpiece. I think they're right. It's an advancement from Irreversible. Watch it on the biggest screen you have, in the dark, and just let it happen to you. This is Enter the Void. In the next video, I'm going into Netflix and Prime to dig out some seriously underrated thrillers and crime movies that have been buried. I enjoyed every single movie on that list, and I think you're gonna wanna watch all of them. I'll keep making these as long as y'all keep watching them. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.